Hey, good morning, good evening, good lunchtime, whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome to sunny Edinburgh and to the ITSM Explorers ITSM tool selection gig that we're running today, where we're going to be talking about all sorts of interesting stuff. But before we kick off, this is a live stream. So we would like to know who's calling in and where you are. And we've got a little bit over there in the bottom of the screen so we can drop in your comments. So if you're calling in from sunny London or sunny Edinburgh or New York, let us know who you are, because we don't know until you tell us. We can bring your comments on the screen and we can direct the stream as well. So if you've got any questions as we run through it, then please drop them into the comments and we'll bring them up on the screen and we'll give you a bit of a shout out. So I think we had a record number of people signing up for today's gig, something like nearly 70 of you. So hopefully a few of you are on the live. It will be available on YouTube as well. So if you have to drop out at any point, no problem. But before we go any further, I should bring on my co-host.
Hi everyone.
So Mr. Steve Morgan has arrived from Essex. How are you doing today, Steve?
Yep, very good, thank you. How are you?
I am doing great because it's nearly 20 degrees in Edinburgh and it really is sunny. I say it's sunny every
That
time.
never happens. That never happens.
Doesn't normally happen, but it is today. So we are the ITSM Explorers, and we ought to do a little bit of a brief introduction to us as we go on. So I'm going to let you start with the introduction because I'm pressing buttons in the background. And by the way, everybody who's watching, anything can happen when I press buttons in the background, so it could go wrong. So we can give a shout out to Lee in Liverpool.
Hello, Lee.
Gurjit in Birmingham. How are you doing? Thank you very much for joining us. And Nigel, I don't believe you. It's sunny in Wales. Okay, that's as credible as it's sunny in Edinburgh.
I was in Wales this week, and I can testify the sun did shine. Not for long, but it did shine. So I believe him.
Beautiful part of the world. So thanks for joining us, guys. As I say, any questions as you go through, let us know. So, Steve, who are you?
Hi everyone, I'm Steve Morgan. I'm the director of Cinead IT. Our Welsh viewer there might recognise that word. It's Welsh for think or idea. So we thought that was a good theme for the company when we set it up. And we're an independent service management consulting firm, get involved in things like tool selection and assessment. And if you look back at some previous episodes, you'll see me waxing lyrical on assessment. And also on things like service integration and management, IT operating model design, etc. Perhaps some subjects for some future episodes. But like Martin, lots of experience in the industry. I'm really keen to kind of share some knowledge and experience with you folks today.
And I am Martin up in Edinburgh, and thanks to Lara joining us from France and Robert joining us from Wales, where it's sunny in the valley as well. I've been in IT service management forever. I've worked for 3 different tool vendors, and I spent about 5 or 6 years running IT service management events up in Scotland. So I have seen more ITSM tools than you can possibly shake a stick at. And as a result of that, I guess part of that was bringing this series together. So myself from more of a vendor angle and Steve from more of an end user angle. Between us, nearly 60 years worth of ITSM experience. We'd like to think we've learned 1 or 2 things along the way. And here we got Poland is in the house as well. Sunny Poland, apparently. It's just sunny all over the world. Let's talk about where we've got to so far and where we're going next with the show. So this is the roadmap for the last few episodes we've done. So we did do 3 or 4 on ITSM maturity assessment, where we talked for about 3 hours, 4 hours on that topic. You can find that on YouTube. We'll give you the link a bit later. But we also started off with 10 helpful tips on tool selections. So there's an hour's worth of that on YouTube. Today, we're going to be having a look at the mind map. And then we're going to go on to do 2 other shows, one on the shopping cart, which is just telling you how to get the best deals when you're shopping for a service desk tool, and a few inside secrets from, well, probably more from my end, from the sales perspective. And then it's more about Steve's side of things, where we get to talk about getting a flying start. So how do you transition from your existing tool set to a new tool set? So these are the shows that we've got in progress and coming up. But I guess today we're talking about the actual tool as a mind map. And we're going to start off with a couple of negative things. So I'm going to ping to the next scene. So things not to do when you're doing a tool selection process. Now we're going to get on to why you should use a mind map in a minute, but a few things that drive me bonkers receiving requests for information. And the first one of which is you're not designing a tool when you put your requirements together. So please, please, please don't produce a giant set of requirements. And the first one is, can your tool create a unique ID for every ticket? It can, and all
And
of
they
them
all
can.
can.
They all can and have been doing for a long, long time. So there is no need when you are producing a set of requirements to go to all of the basic stuff as if you're creating a tool from scratch. Now, you might think that sounds mad, but I would say nearly 50% of the requests for information that come in that I see definitely do that. Other things that people do. Steve, you can take this one on.
Well, it's so tempting, isn't it? So you reinvent all the things that you've got today, whether they're good or bad. So you might say, for example, I want the tool to be able to email everybody when I need to collaborate on a ticket. Well, you probably don't, because that's how you do it today. What you need to do is to be have a method of collaboration so that you can resolve tickets more or more efficiently. And it might not be that sending everybody an email is the right way to do it. So just accept perhaps that you have some functional requirements, but some of your operational practices today could be enhanced by the tool. So don't try and replicate everything that you've got there. Try and think functionally about what you want that tool to help you do rather than try and reinvent all those ways of working, because your requirements will become huge. And I can guarantee that when the vendor gets them, they're going to misinterpret them because they don't know how you work. So,
I think,
try and keep it
yeah.
light.
Well, one of my classics that I get is somebody will say, we need these 30 reports that we've always had. And I'll
Yes,
look at it and say, well, if I respond to this tender and say that we don't have these reports, I will lose marks in
you're
this
out the
tender.
window.
But actually, what I want to tell you is you don't need those 30 reports. What you need is real-time reporting, predictive analysis reporting, and things that will make everything better. So try not to ask for what you've already got, because there's probably better stuff out there. And another one, and this is just an extension of the last one, is I
Yes.
see so many tenders where you think, right, we need to ask everybody what they want. So you'll ask Jane in accounts and she'll tell you she needs these 30 reports. And then you'll ask Bill in another part of the organization and he'll tell you he needs these 30 reports. And then Johnny will start out with, I need it to be able to give me a unique ID for every call. And so many sets of requirements that I see, it's obvious. You can see when person A has finished asking and person B starts, and it just becomes a giant, long, confused list without any particular vision. It's not going to do you any good to just create a giant list. And it
No.
also puts vendors off as well, because they will evaluate whether it's worth their time going and responding to your set of requirements. If all you've got is a 4-page, 5-page, 10-page list of repeating requirements, they're probably going to say, these guys haven't got a clue what they want. I'm going to go work with somebody else.
Yeah, indeed. And I think that's so true. I think the key thing here is, get someone to pull together those requirements for you and validate them and sift through them. Accept that not everyone's requirements are going to make it into the RFP. Maybe weight the requirements that you have. So these are must-haves, should-haves, could-haves, and would-haves. You might recall that Moscow methodology. But think also architecturally about the tool and whether the thing that someone is asking for is architecturally desirable as to where you want it to go. So I often help clients in that kind of area, just that sense check that says, are you sure you want that tool to do that really? How important is that to you? So, and then we've preempted the next point once again.
So you got on to the next point before I got to make it, which is don't think you know it all. Myself, Steve, are very boring. We sit and look at service desk tools all day long, day in, day out. And personally, I don't know much about anything else, but I do know quite a lot about service desk tools and what's on the market and what they all do. And I could go on Mastermind and pick out the top 10 tools in the UK and tell you their positives and negatives and go through all of that. It's just I would totally fail on the general knowledge. But don't think because you've been working with your tool for a long, long time that you know everything that is out there and what things are capable of. And that kind of is what we want to do by bringing up this mind map for you. So I press the next button, hopefully you go to the next scene. So mind maps, there's a whole load of things that are going to go on in the background here about mind maps and why I think they are a great way of streamlining your process. So for a start, they're very, very quick to set up. Literally, if you pick up any mind map tool, and there's loads out there, within 10 minutes, you'll know how it works and you'll be able to start creating on effectively a whiteboard your vision and sharing it with your team or stakeholders throughout the company, but also sharing it with the vendors as well. It's a really, really visual, interactive way of doing things. And you can change it very easily. So as you're going on, if suddenly you see a vendor that's got a super wonderful idea that you want to have, then just add it to the mind map. Steve also mentioned being able to score things and to weight the scoring. A mind map's a great way of doing that because you can just have level 1 requirements, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, and weight them appropriately on the mind map. It's also a great way of bringing all the different functions together into little groups. So you can see everything that sits under incident management, major incident management, stuff like that. So for me, the first time I seen this was a university in the north of Scotland put a mind map together. I was working with them, so I added in a whole bunch of extra stuff. But boy, it was so refreshing not to have this giant fixed list. And
Yes.
you do need to have a vision, and it's an iterative process. But a mind map is a really, really cool way of doing
And,
things.
and it enables you to spot those duplicate requirements or the contradictory ones as well, and group things together more logically. So yeah, I'm a big supporter of this. It's so much easier to manage than the 1,000-line spreadsheet that you could end up with. So
Yeah, and you can almost get buy-in at stage 1 as well. So rather than just send out a blind email and say, what requirements have you got from the service desk tool, and then bring them all in, stick them in a spreadsheet, get everybody in a room or on a Teams meeting or whatever, and effectively whiteboard it with everybody, you can get some consensus from the start, which is really, really important when you're implementing any tool, is to get consensus and buy-in from everybody at the beginning. So much better way of doing it. And it also transcends the whole, oh, IT have introduced a new system. We didn't know it was coming, but we've all got to use it now. So what does the mind map look like, guys? And we're going to give you a link to this at the end of the show. But
Yep.
for the moment, you're going to see why I'm not going to try and show you it all during the show. Instead, we're going to pick things out. So this is a link to the mind map here. And as you can see, there's quite a lot in there. It was more or less a brain dump. And I have got, this is version 4, but I think version 5 is in the pipeline and about to be released. But all of these different features are things that you may want to consider when you're looking at a service desk tool. And this is purely the features. Just before we came on, Steve mentioned to me, maybe there's a second mind map that we should be doing with non-functional requirements. So perhaps you can dig a hole for yourself, Steve, and volunteer to create a non-functional mind map and let people know what that actually means.
Quite possibly, yeah. So, what we've got here are the things that you need the tool to do functionally for you. But as with any service, it has functional elements, but it has non-functional elements. So these are the things like security, reliability, availability, response time, the stature of the company, the culture of the company, and whether you think you can work with them. Because a lot of the companies come with their own kind of personality, ways of working, and often they can be incompatible with you and your organization. So, you need to be able to think and include those types of things. We haven't got one to show you right now, but you never know. As Martin said, we're incredibly boring. Do not ever get stuck with us at a dinner party over at the table. You will find yourself learning all about service management tools or SIAM or assessments or whatever the flavor of the month is in our minds. But yeah, perhaps I will have a go at that. And perhaps if anyone who's watching wants to contribute some content or some ideas to get us started, then feel free to do so. I'm very happy for someone to do all the work, and we will credit you, but I'll take the majority of the credit.
Next.
I see treasure.
You see treasure. So these are some treasure items from the mind map. So the mind map, will give you the link to the end at the end of the show for that. There's nothing to sign up for. You can just go download it. But what we've done is picked out a few different elements from the mind map, and I'll be honest, these are some of my favored elements. So Steve didn't get much of a choice in this, but I did the mind map, so it was my choice.
I didn't know. Yeah, it's his toy.
So the first one that I wanted to have a discussion about was something that you may not even appreciate that you can ask for or look for. And that's true for quite a lot of these, but it's a zero code platform. So relatively speaking, these haven't been around for that long. So some of you may not be aware that you can have a platform that is completely drag and drop. So all of your workflow processes and everything else within the tool is drag and drop. There is no back-end database work. There is no requirement for going down to somewhere in the M4 corridor for a week's training to work out how to press all the different buttons. These are very, very simple to use tools. Certainly the average agent probably doesn't need hardly any training because the tool will workflow them through everything. But even the admin people don't need a lot of training on zero code platforms. And report writing, yeah, that's drag and drop as well. The screen shares, if you want to create your own environment, drag and drop, all zero code. So I would very much recommend zero code platforms, and also ones with auto upgrades. So for years and years and years, you have to upgrade your service desk system. It would normally be overnight at a weekend or sometime when nobody else was looking, hopefully. And it could be quite a painful process. You'd need to have a rollback in there. And when you then rang up for support, you'd have to tell people what version of the product you were on. And if you've got any integrations, they could well be broken. So you needed to check all of those. Well, nowadays, you don't have to do all of that. There are platforms out there that will do micro upgrades continuously maybe once a week or something like that, without you even knowing it's happening. And you'll be up to date with the latest version of everything all the time. Now, there are a couple of scenarios where that may not be desirable. Steve, why might that not be desirable?
So you might want or need that product to be stable and standard the whole time. You can't afford to change anything. I think the downside there is if you're not having any updates, you're not going to benefit from any new functionality that's coming down the line. You might find yourself with a product that is ultimately unsupportable or out of support. So you've got to be a bit careful about that. Um, I think as far as upgrades, as auto upgrades are concerned, um, you want to be careful about the amount of testing that could be necessary to support upgrades as well. So when an upgrade happens, you want to make sure that there's no functional impact. Many organizations can take that to an extreme. So you'd have a lot of preparation and resources assigned to the planning, and then the upgrade gets tested over a period of days or even weeks, and then implemented. So it will vary by the organization and their kind of risk appetite. Many will shy away from auto updates or upgrades of the product because of perhaps a regulatory need to have constant testing, or a particular set of functionality which they never ever want to change. So can be cautious of it, I think. But
I think,
no,
yeah, there is a balance with any of these things.
set
I
it and
just,
forget it.
I find it now quite bizarre that there is a whole ecosystem out there where people are trying to put systems back into the out of the box
Mm,
scenario because they've messed them up through
yes.
manual upgrades. So I am going to say I love auto upgrades.
You might just want to have a quick Google, or those that are watching, of is out of the box implementation possible? Because I've written a blog article on whether I think it is possible or not. I don't believe it is, but that's a debate for another day, Martin. You can
Yeah.
read my thoughts on the blog.
So, so Robert is saying culture is an important non-functional consideration. New tools and processes will result in changes for people and teams. How can we predict these more effectively?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because we've actually got the AI icon there, and that generates a huge amount of concern amongst people. Is this product going to take my job? Have I got to do things in a different way now, etc. And that fear, uncertainty, and doubt that I refer to is, what are generally the big issues when a product comes along. So I think you can predict it. You can do some business change impact analysis, so you can understand your stakeholder groups. You can look at the functionality that you're looking to introduce and determine the impact upon those stakeholder groups of that functionality, and whether you predict that to be positive or negative. Um, there is a tried and tested method of finding out whether it's going to be received well or not, and that's to talk to people. It's very uncommon amongst us technologists, but we could run some workshops and find out their opinion, and then develop some strategies to mitigate that risk. But no, you're quite right. It can be a challenge, particularly with some of these quite scary bits of functionality that some people perhaps who may not have been exposed to them. So it's definitely worth raising.
Yeah, and that's worth talking about, maybe in more detail at a later point when we get onto the non-functional map. Actually, for
Yeah,
now,
I haven't
let's
produced it.
yeah, we'll stick to some of the features. So this one, what am I talking about? AI agent assist. Now, when we go back to these sort of responses for tender, the second question after unique call ID is nearly always, can you log a call quickly? And the answer, of course, is yes. Everybody can, and they've been able to log them super quickly for ages and ages. However, in the last couple of years, things have moved on leaps and bounds with the introduction of AI. So different people have different names for this. So I've just called it an agent assistant. But what this really does is put the power into the hands of AI to take away a lot of heavy lifting for your agents. So when you go to log a call, and we've always seen this in the past, it's been around for years. Quite often, as you're typing in, you will see that a knowledge article pops up. Now, that knowledge article popping up to this point in time has probably been based upon matching exact words as you're typing them in. But what AI is now doing with natural language processing and other clever stuff is taking the complete block of text and interpreting it and then trying to match it to other calls or knowledge articles or anything else which it has at its fingertips to try and give you a hand. So typically now what you can do with AI is set up a parameter which says if you are 80% sure or 70% sure, then fill in a field for me. So instead of you categorizing a call, AI will start filling in all of those dreary, boring drop-down lists that you have to fill in. It will go much further than that as well, though. It will bring up similar calls to the one that you're currently dealing with. It might even start suggesting other people that you want to collaborate with based upon its knowledge of what's happened with previous calls, and bring up even complete template answers for you to the call, including knowledge-based articles and other fix related topics, all automatically. So literally, as you're doing your call logging process, the whole thing's filled in for you. Ultimate is that it completes the whole lot and you haven't had to do anything. But certainly AI assistance, really, really brilliant tool. You had some comments on that as well, I think, with regards to the
I was
old ways
itching.
versus the
Oh,
new ways.
I was itching. I was itching to get in. So AI needs to work upon your previous tickets. So if your previous tickets are of high quality, then go for your life. This is really going to help you. But the last thing you want it to be doing is presenting particular solutions for tickets where maybe the quality of the ticket wasn't up to much, or it even logged the wrong answer. So the reason why this is relevant, we'll come on to it in a subsequent um, session of this, where we talk about cutover and whether to bring old tickets across from your old tooling. So, I guess the principle here is garbage in, garbage out, right? It's going to only be as good as the information that you present it at first, and then it will learn, and it will learn. But that initial piece could be a bit bumpy if you're feeding it stuff tickets. Second challenge I had here was often this is an add-on and it costs money. So check that, because the service provider is absolutely going to lead on the cool shiny stuff. May not necessarily tell you that it adds £20 per user per month to the license costs. So be really careful around what you're seeing and constantly ask that question of is that included in a standard license? Is it not included in a standard license?
So we've got a question associated with this from Robert. Can AI help with identifying creeping disasters and managing response to major incidents? So the answer is yes.
Yes.
In fact, an emphatic yes. That's exactly what it can do. But these things all take time. So as Steve has indicated, AI will take time to learn. However, those parameters that I mentioned earlier are the things that are really helpful. You can set the level at which you want AI to stop just learning and to start suggesting. So you can say, with a level of certainty, please let us know when you want us to start making suggestions. And that's really the sort of key element with this stuff. But point is, AI is everywhere, and Chat GPT is a great example. If you haven't gone and played with that, I would give it 9 out of 10 for most things that I ask Chat GPT. But
Eight and a half.
8.5, right? Well, I'm still giving it very high marks. It's only going to get more and more intelligent, and sooner or later, we won't be on this show doing this because it will all be avatar based and it'll all be AI based, and they won't need us anymore. So we're just going to
Just
do
to
this while
Robert,
we can.
to Robert's earlier question, though, yes, Robert, it can from an ITSM tool perspective in terms of analysing tickets, but the same is also true from an event and alert management perspective for tooling in that space. So that's probably better, I think, an answer to your question in that you don't want to be spotting creeping disasters from incidents because almost by then it's too late. You want to be spotting them when they're events and alerts, and there's some great tooling out there that does that. So sorry, I just wanted to give you a fuller answer than what we've done. On we go, Martin, because I'm conscious we're chewing up the time.
And we could go on for hours because I suddenly want to talk about context-aware tools and AI and business alignments with CMDBs, and we will never get to the end of the show if I start on that. So thank you for the question. Right, we're moving on.
Let's move on quick.
Another topic, gamification. And the reason I put this in is because not many tools have gamification within them. Originally, when I saw gamification, I thought, I'm not sure about that. Then I started to think and thought, there was a time when I would go down to the amusement arcade and pump hundreds and hundreds of coins into the Galaxicon or Defender machine to try and get the top score. And this is something that now we're finding, certainly with the younger generation of people who are likely to be working on the service desk, that they really enjoy. So when I had a look at a whole bunch of people who were being asked, what's your favorite thing about the tool? Nearly all of them said gamification. And this is really just a method of awarding people points for being good at their job. And really, what it's not about how many calls have you closed. That's not a good metric for anybody because people have just rushed to close calls and creates bad behavior. However, if you take metrics like customer satisfaction or something like knowledge articles, not how many have you created, but how good are they and how well do people respond to them. These are the sort of metrics that you can build into multiple different areas within gamification and also set things like quests. So how many good knowledge articles can you write within a month? Oh, I get top of the leaderboard for that. And people seem to love it. So, but it's something that can be a bit contentious. And I think you probably would say, I'm fairly sure, Steve, that it depends upon the culture of your organization.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No further questions, Your Honor.
Yeah, I think that ties in a little bit with a comment that we had from Nigel talking about using the ABC of ICT successfully: attitudes, behaviour, culture. Certainly, there's a bit of an alignment in there. So thank you, Nigel, for that comment. Next one up, and I'm just watching the time flying by because this next one's going to be fairly big. And everybody expected it to appear, I'm sure. Automation and chatbots, and I've separated them out because bots are not just chatbots now. They are often used for automating various different tasks as well. So I think it would be fair to say when bots, and in particular chatbots, first appeared, they were pretty dire. And there's been a lot of bitter experiences with early chatbots. But because of the way that AI is going now, in particular, they're getting better and better and better. I was saying to Steve earlier on, I renewed my car insurance recently. As soon as I logged on, I was presented with a bot that said, "Hello, Martin. Are you calling about your car insurance renewal? Because I see it's due at the moment." Yes, I am. Are you happy with the quote? Yes, I am. Are you still... in fact, it pinged up a whole load of terms and conditions then for me to agree to. And then it said, do you want to use the same payment method? Yes, I do. Great. All done. Finished. End to end. Didn't need to speak to a person. Got all the way through it using the chatbot. What I would say as a cautionary tale, though, any chatbots that you deploy, make sure there's a handoff at some point so that somebody can speak to a person if they really want to. There is nothing more annoying than being caught in the bot loop, as I would say. But also, they can get more and more intelligent now. And again, this is something that you may not know that you can ask for. But let's say somebody has been on your service portal and they're looking around your FAQ section for networking problems, something like that. What can happen in the background is that the user activity can be tracked. And based upon that user activity, you can ping up a bot. But it won't just be a generic bot. It will be a bot that knows that you've been looking at inquiries or FAQs on networking problems. So it will pop up. Yeah, it's like the paperclip, just exactly the same.
It looks like you're writing a document.
Yes, I'm writing
For
a
those of you old
document.
enough to remember Word, don't worry. But if you don't remember it, you
It
haven't
didn't go
missed
down
much.
well. It was a good idea at the time. But now it will pop up and say, seeing you've been looking at this, the most common problem that we're having with networking at the moment is X, or we've got an outage in Durham, or other related information that can also
Yes.
relate to your profile as well. So not only can it pop up proactively and do all of that, if you then want your handoff and speak to a person, it can route the call to the appropriate area as well. So it's taking all those little bits of knowledge that it has, bringing them together and throwing that into the chatbot to make it an intelligent chatbot. So responsive, intelligent, but more than that, proactive as well. So that can be an amazing piece of functionality. Not many people will expect to be helped out as they're going through their service portal. They're there to try and solve their own problem. So I think that side of things can be great. And we talk about automation in the bots, and that's kind of part of the next one as well. So let's bring that up. So this is orchestration from a single click. So what I really mean by that is if I'm on my service portal, let's say, and I want to order a new piece of kit, I want to click and then have in the background a workflow going on that is going to order the piece of kit for me, tell me it's been ordered, track the progress of that order, let me know when it's been delivered. Once it's been delivered, I want to put that into the CMDB. I want to allocate it to myself. I want to get it installed. All of those things should just happen in the background with drag and drop workflow configuration. And you can now do that. And some people will call it a bot. Really, that one is a workflow, but all sorts of things. And I'm sure you'll have come across this quite a lot in some of the platforms that you've been using as well, Steve.
Yeah, just provision, full provisioning of things for allocating multiple tasks to at the same time. A single click that says, "Hey, you go and create a knowledge article for this," and "Hey, you go and fix this ticket." And by the way, we need to be aware of this because there's a change coming up. Rather than you doing all of that workflow manually, you can set a lot of that through the creation of business rules. Clearly, you need to know your workflows and what your business rules are going to be. So, none of this comes without a little bit of legwork on your part. But once set up, fantastic to use.
I'm going to go to the next one just because it's connected. So these little golden gears are representing integrations. So when you have got this sort of single click workflow type of thing, that can be used for just about anything. So it could be just ordering a piece of kit, but it could be provisioning something. So somebody says, I need more service space, and you want to go off to AWS and create more service space for that end user. That can all happen automatically as well. But you need to have all the integrations to these other third-party tools, many of which are going to be cloud-based now, which actually makes things easier. So it's just pushing and pulling information with APIs. But you need to have those integrations. Traditionally, you would have to write those integrations. And then we come back to the whole upgrade process type thing. Once
Mm.
you've written an integration, you do an upgrade. Oh, it doesn't work anymore. So ideally, you don't want to have to write those integrations. It would be great if you just went to the shelf and picked one up. And you can. That's the good news. ServiceNow, wonderful ServiceNow, many years ago now, had this wonderful idea that they would create a marketplace of integrations, and they would take the whole task of creating that integration and push it onto the external vendor. So whether it's AWS or Microsoft or whoever it is that you want to integrate with, their integration will be on the marketplace. So this is a fantastic way of you not doing the heavy lifting and also guaranteeing that the integration is going to work because it's in a box.
Word of warning here, though, right? So you might go onto the service provider's portal, their marketplace, and say, "Great, it's got integrations with Zapier and Zero and other products. Isn't it wonderful?" But it's only wonderful if those products are in your estate today. So there's a little bit of legwork here, and I keep saying this, don't I? Maybe I'm just being the doubter on these tools, but the point is these tools are great, right? But a fool with a tool is still a fool, right? So you need to be able to do the legwork to say, what products have we got that we need to integrate with? So your financial management product in your organization could be a great one, right? You could invoice external suppliers or receive invoices in for service requests that you've had done, for example. But you need to know what's in your estate. So you've got to do that legwork, and that architectural business analysis, just come up with a term for it, is critical, because then you'll be able to do the correlation between what's in the marketplace and what you've actually got, rather than the 40 integrations that are in the marketplace and just go, wow, this is incredible. Well, it might not be if you don't have those products. So I know it sounds obvious, but you'll be surprised how many people just look at that without a thought about how they're actually going to use it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good point. I also would say check the marketplace integrations. Most of these have got scoring, like you would score on
Mm.
Amazon, or something like that. If nobody else is using the integration, there might be a reason for that. If they're scoring it badly, there might be a reason for that as well. So look at the integrations, make sure they're being used by other people within that marketplace. But most of these, where I can only think of a couple of vendors who've actually got big marketplace uh,
Mm.
full of integrations. But in those cases, they are almost limitless. Pretty much anything you can think of, there's an
Yep.
integration out there, because the other party involved wants you to keep using their tool. So they're going to write the integration to Teams or Bonga or Jira or Azure DevOps or AWS or whatever it is. There'll probably
Mm.
be an integration out there because they want you to keep using their tools. So
Absolutely.
marketplace integrations, unbelievably good in my opinion, and almost limitless in terms of your imagination, what you can think of. You can just add in there and build your vision, and it doesn't have to be from day one as well. That's the beauty of
Mm.
integrations.
Mm.
It can be as you go along. So
Yeah.
next one, that's just those six. We've got more and more and more we could talk about, but rather than me go into all of these details, perhaps, Steve, I should let you have a word and just say some of the new stuff that's come out in let's say the last 5 years. What have you been most impressed with in terms of functionality and its impact on the business of running a service
So
desk?
there's one up here on the top right. We discussed enterprise service management earlier on, and I think that whole expansion of case-based workflow that we in IT have been used to for many, many years, the ability to be able to share a single source of record across IT, HR, facilities, to integrate better with joiner movers levers processes, to better manage non-IT devices in the same way that IT devices are managed, I think is an absolutely critical one. And the other one I would say is the one directly above my head here, which is the reporting one. Um, just because for that, from that point of view, you know, we've all seen teams, armies, cottage industries of people devoted to reporting, and putting the ability to create reports in the hands of the people who need the reports rather than raising a request, which we used to have to do, believe it or not, to get a report from the tool because it needed to be written. I know that's kind of a good while ago, but we've advanced so much now. So the ability to be able to bring data together, to create the report visually by dragging and dropping components of the report into various bits, and then seeing the change immediately has been, for me, a massive game changer. I very rarely see now those cottage industries of report writers in organisations who are um, taking the data, taking it into Excel, putting the data from Excel into some BI product, extracting it, and putting that into PowerPoint. You know, that whole cottage industry has disappeared. It should have. And if there's anyone in the comments that says we've got one of them, then let us know. But I think that that's been for me one of the big game changer because a CIO can create a report easily.
And you don't have to go distributing them either. I think that's a big deal. It's not about distributing reports. It's not about looking backwards with your reports. It's about
No, indeed.
what's happening now, what's going to happen next week, and the week after. Are we going to run out of space on that server based upon the increased user activity? Yes, we are. Let's do something about that and fire off a triggered orchestration to sort it out. So I think it's a huge difference, and there are still a lot of these star ratings that tell you that you need lots of different reports, which you just don't do. You don't. There's better ways of doing things. So some of the other ones we've got up the top here, just to fill out a couple of minutes before we get to the end. And we've got a few different people dropping comments in, and I'll maybe come back to some of them. But Robert and Nigel, great points bringing up here about enterprise service management and integrations, etc. Certainly, we can look at those more. I'll come and answer them, I think, in the comments because we're going to run out of time. But other things that we've got up the top there, I've got a service portal just above Steve's head there, with a knowledge base attached to it. Intelligent knowledge bases, I love the idea of those, which are aligned with KCS, knowledge centered service or knowledge centered support, but also ones that are context aware. So I love the thought that you can log on, and when you log on, it knows that Martin is in Edinburgh. So it's not going to tell me about outages in Essex, where Steve is. It knows my role. So it's going to say, oh, people in your role and in your location are commonly having the following problem at the moment, because we know what software you use, we know what hardware you use, we know your physical connections to everything. These are the problems you might have. So there are now service portals that are context aware. There's only a very few of them, but they do simple things like pop up a button that says me too. So if you have the same problem, you don't have to go logging tons of stuff. You just press a button and it says, yeah, I've got that problem. And
Yep.
it's a great way of doing things. Very, very few emerging technology, I would have to say. You'll have to hunt those down for the ones that are super, super clever. But that's the way things are going. Other ones we've got there, very briefly. In the middle, that cog with 3 people is collaboration tools. So we have learned to use collaboration tools, in particular through the whole horrible COVID times when everybody suddenly was using instant messaging and getting onto Teams and things like that. Service desk tools will integrate with a lot of these different platforms and will have their own version of collaboration tools as well. So Gone are the days where your service desk is standalone with an individual agent working on one particular ticket. You can just drag people into a conversation, and you may well be able to do that from within Teams and link from Teams to your service desk platform without having to jump in and out the different products. You can do all of those things now. There are tools out there that will let you do that, and there's some great collaboration platforms as well. So I'm guessing you've seen some of those out there, Steve, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't got a huge amount of time, but perhaps we can elaborate on that in a further episode.
Right. I know that we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left maximum, so I'm just going to quickly
Yep.
mention the phone above my head as well.
Go for it.
You should be able to do pretty much everything on your phone at the moment now. New tools allow you to do that, but you do need to have more configurable items on your phone, because you're not going to get your whole desktop view on your phone. So you need to have a sort of specialized view of that. But that's not really what that phone was about. It was more about getting notified to do things. And, should that be a WhatsApp or a Teams message or whatever, that should come straight out to your phone, but not just internally, externally as well. So Steve is a bit of a super SIAM man. So he'll tell you that when it comes to, let's say, major incident management, end to end, you can plan that all out in a good service desk
Absolutely.
tool.
Yep.
But you need to have the links and the processes to be able to bring everybody else in to, for instance, a major incident management. So that's what that is about, really, is, do you have all of the links and the ability to not only address within your own ticket within one person, but to collaborate internally and externally to the organization. I think nearly everybody now has got some element of third-party suppliers going on there. So does your tool support this environment that we now live in? I think and it can. So that's me. I've sort of gone on hours
That's
and
good.
hours about all these different things, and I just want to say thank you for everybody for joining us there. But what I'm going to do now is boot Steve off for a second, because I get to do a shameless plug and let you know where the mind map can be downloaded, and then Steve gets to do a shot, and then we do a close. So just 2 minutes. Me now.
Go.
So contact details for me, the green square up the top is my LinkedIn profile. If you go click on the LinkedIn profile, get connected to me. If you're not already, then that would be great. You'll also see posts on there coming out about future episodes of the ITSM Explorers. Then the next thing that you want below it is a link to my website, which is it500.co.uk. If you'd rather type it in than actually use your camera to scan the QR code, you can. On that website, you're going to find 3 yellow blocks right at the front and center, which are the links to the mind map, the link to an article which I wrote on why you should use collaboration tools, and a third one, and I can't remember what the third one is now, but there's 3 of them. Oh, it's links to the YouTube channel, but we're going to show you that
That's
in a minute
it.
anyway. So get your phone out, scan that there, and that will take you to the website. Click on the mind map yellow block. That will take you to Dropbox. Within Dropbox, there is a HTML file. All you do is click in the top left-hand corner where it says download, and it will download that HTML file. And that will be an interactive mind map in HTML that you can go play about with. If you actually want the full version of the mind map in its original format, you'll need a tool called Mind Manager. Just direct message me and I'll let you have that. But don't be scared by the fact a whole load of HTML pops up on that screen. Just download it in Dropbox from Dropbox, and up will pop magically the mind map for you to go peruse. It's a starting point. It's not the end point. So it's what you use to take to all your different friends and get them to collaborate with you. So that's me. I'm going to take a glass of water and put Steve on.
Okay. I just realized Dropbox and HTML and so on, your corporate networks might block it. So if you don't have the opportunity to download it, contact Martin and he'll send it to you. But it's well worth having. ITSM Explorers has found some treasure, and you should make the most of it. At the top there, on the left, on the right hand side here is my LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me if you haven't done so already. There you'll see information about Explorers when I remember to repost it from Martin's account, but you'll also see some other good stuff popping up around our core services of tool selection, assessment, and the SIAM operating models. So you can also click on the website on the bottom there and use the search facility. There's a little magnifying glass. You go there and type tool selection. You'll have a whole bunch of white papers, some of which we'll cover over subsequent episodes. But if you want to get a sneak peek, look ahead, then tool selection in the search bar will give you that further hidden treasure. Hope that that's been useful to you. Martin.
We're both back on this one. So this is the YouTube channel, and you can go subscribe to that. Please do. There's about 4 or now be about 5 hours of us talking, and as time goes on, there'll be more and more. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with the next episode. I'm being asked which mind map tool do I recommend. I use one called Mind Manager.
Me too.
Use that as well. There's a free 30-day trial on it as well. So if you want the original mind map format for that, just let me know. You've found out various different ways of contacting me. So yeah, do that. I forgot to mention that I'm also a Freshworks partner as well. So full disclosure there. If you want to talk about Freshworks, come see me as well. But thank you for everybody who has joined us today. So from different parts of the world as well. So Lee, Gurjit, Nigel, Lara, Robert, Nigel again, and everybody who's asked questions. Thank you so much. We want it to be interactive every time.
Yeah.
So it's time for a little bit of an outro, and then we're going off to get lunch, I think. So just to show you that our posts on LinkedIn look just like what you're seeing on the live. But from Edinburgh, that's cheerio from me.
And cheerio from me in Essex. Thanks for watching.
See you later, guys. Bye.